On this episode of the Home Studio Hangout podcast, we have friend of the podcast, Enoch Yang, coming back for a part 2. We talked to Enoch about transitioning into his new company, That Management.
Sometimes you run into things where your brain is just like, yes, more of this, please.
We explain what it is and how it can help you.
We basically help offload all of the time-consuming, difficult things.
And we talk about some of the major business pitfalls of producers and mixers. Producers, engineers, mixers, what do you find are some of the pitfalls that they make earlier in the career?
One big thing that I run into is...
Welcome back to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. I'm your host, Drew. Not here with my host, Josh, today. He's working his big boy job today, but I am here with friend of the podcast, and it's been a little bit, Enoch Yang. How are you doing? It is so good to see you again.
Hey, Drew. So good seeing you. I've been well. There have been a couple moves since we last chatted. Not like big city moves, but just like moving into different places in the city, just to,
still in Charlotte.
Still in Charlotte. Yeah, a couple business pivots. But yeah, just generally niching myself into something that I really enjoy these days. So
yeah. Well, so for those that haven't listened to the older episode, the last time we talked, you were producing and mainly focusing like in the sync licensing world. And now you've made the pivot into management. So let's talk about like this transition right here. Let's kind of start with that transition right out the gate. How did you make this transition into that management from doing the sync stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of one of those things where you randomly fall into it. Kind of like how most people end up being like composers or music producers. You kind of randomly fall into it and you're like, wow, I like this. It's going to be something that I want to pursue as a career. So at least with my experience with that pitch, I was the licensing coordinator for them for a while. And just kind of as that job evolved and as that pitch started its build into the third iteration of its platform, codenamed That Pitch 3.0 essentially, I started to take a lot larger of a hand in kind of the like operations and systems build. So kind of directing like where the tech would go, where like certain user workflows would go, and just also like on top of licensing coordination, making sure that the platform was working well, that the tech was working well, that everyone on the team was doing what they needed to do. And just kind of in doing that, I realized that I really loved just kind of sitting on my laptop at a coffee shop and tying up loose ends on things. And so that just kind of ended up becoming something that I was like, damn, I want to do more of this. So I talked to Mark. I was like, hey, I'd much rather, can I move into more of a operations role instead of licensing coordination and like A&Ring? And he was all for that because that was very much a need at the time. And then from there, decided, or kind of like use that as a launching point. I started a business called That Management, which is, it sprung from, the That 90s Kid, That Pitch, like oeuvre. But in and of itself, like it kind of became its own thing over time. And so just kind of shifting from that licensing coordination, A&R, like music producer side of things into more or less the, like, how do you like build infrastructure and like make sure that your business runs well, kind of side of things. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I've super needed. And like you said, I feel like you've always been like the kind of person who's been attempts to be very organized and very planned and thought out, and you love systems. Like we talked, I think even last time we talked about it, like you were a big systems person, even in your previous position, and like it feels like a very natural, a development for you, whether that was something bubbling under the surface and, or not, I feel like it feels very natural for you to move into this like management, helping startups and solopreneurs like get their business going and running so that, they don't have to focus on all the little nitty gritty details of things.
Yeah, absolutely. It just, I don't know. Sometimes you run into things where your brain is just like, yes, more of this, please. And that kind of just ended up being where I ended up loving to go. And like, even as like a music producer, like the way I onboarded specific clientele that I worked with, the way I like organized projects that I had for Sync, I always had like a very visual system of, okay, cool, these are the projects I'm working on. I need to move these into here to keep track of everything. I tried the thing where I tried to keep all of the information in my head, just kind of
Mhm.
like floating around in there organized, and that does not work. I'm way too ADHD for that. I need to have, a
100%.
system that I can look at to see like this is what I'm working on today. So yeah, it's been
100%.
it's been a journey. It's been really great.
Are you still producing as well, or is this encompassed your entire being now?
I'm not producing as much. I actually don't even have a studio set up in this current living space.
Oh,
So
dang.
it's just kind of been like a desk and my laptop. I've really
I bet that's a
downsized. Like my studio
weird
monitors
shift.
aren't even up. It's so weird. I realized over the last year of like maybe like working on two compositions for music libraries, which like that was super fun. But also just
Yeah.
like doing the deep dive into like my inner
It's
self and like realizing like
it's a
do I
lot.
really like do I want to like put this much of a focus on creativity in my life,
Mhm.
or do I just want to create for fun and not limit myself to like making music specifically for like even like monetary or like back end?
Yeah.
It very much shifted into a no, like I want to pursue other creative endeavors. And for me, being creative specifically in the music space, while it was something that I really enjoyed for a really long time, I almost had to face this like giant of realizing that it wasn't something that I particularly found satisfaction in anymore. It started to tip over
Yeah.
into the this is more work than it is play side of things.
100%.
And so from there it just kind of turned into like, okay, cool. What does feel like play when I work? And that kind of did turn
Yeah.
into like this like problem solving systems, like
Yeah.
businesses come to me saying like, hey, we have this problem, can you fix it?
Mhm.
And
No,
it's strange,
that's
like
amazing.
it still hits the like creative side. I'm like, oh yeah, I can be creative. It's just instead of working with like wobbly sound waves, I'm working with people and systems and
Yeah.
like how businesses do their things. And like it's kind of it's crazy. I somehow ended up here. So
No, but that's awesome. I mean, and it's cool that, like, I'm sure that that self-conversation is hard because especially as music people, like, we get so self-invested with, you know, music is my thing. Like, that's the what
mhm.
I do. That's the thing that I do. And having that, like, that's a hard I'm sure that's a hard conversation to have as far as, like, I'm gonna choose to do this as I enjoy it and not for a job. And I'm going
Mhm.
to now pivot into this other thing that does fulfill me in a different way, but it's just not music anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it's been processed, and we can definitely dive into that a little more. Just kind of like the psychology behind it, or like just the inner work that went on into that transition. But regardless, like I have ended up in
Yeah.
this place, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing these days. So
No, that's amazing. I would love to hear just for people that are interested in what you're doing now. So we've kind of gotten you up to speed.
mhm.
So explain that management to those that don't know or are might be interested.
Yeah, absolutely. So that management, it's basically an agency that runs businesses for business owners so that they can focus on growing their business and actually like talking to people, making networking relationships that actually matter to the business versus dealing with customer support, dealing with basic fulfillment, onboarding, offboarding, getting all the admin and legal stuff done. We basically handle all of that. So in the creative space, like for your audience specifically, like people who are
Hmm.
working into getting into like music composition, music production, or like even just just plain artistry, um, we basically help offload all of the like time-consuming, difficult things, sending proposals, right, onboarding clients,
Yes.
making sure files are delivered, registering things with PROs, making sure release strategy is set, making sure release date is set, album art is compliant, like all of that kind of stuff. We assist creatives with that specifically, um,
Yeah.
so that they can focus on like being creative and not having to like switch that mental brain space into
Hmm.
like, okay, cool, I'm now in admin mode, and then taking like 20 minutes to then get back into creative mode. And so like in
Yeah.
the creative space, that's what we're doing. And in more of the like meta sphere of things, we are working more with like solopreneurs and startups. So we work with like brick and mortar solopreneurs,
Hmm.
people who like own tiny shops, or like if you're a hairstylist, or maybe even like a
Yeah.
personal trainer who needs a website. all the way up to startups. So like if you are, this like starting funded like
Like
new
a tech
business with this
company.
idea that's going to change the world, we basically help you handle running your business so you can focus on like crafting that idea that is very much your like special child, right? And so like
Mm.
we try to free up, the brain space of creatives and business owners so that they can use, the limited resources that they have in the best and most efficient way possible to grow their businesses.
Yeah, I mean, and especially from like I feel like solopreneurs and artists and all of the people that you've said, like people that are vision people, are really bad at being like nitty gritty details people because they get really excited about like, oh, we're doing this thing. I mean, like even from an artist perspective, it's like, oh, I need to write the song and you know make sure that I'm promoting the song correctly, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of these, like you said, the PRO, the clearance, the album art cleared, like all of those details get lost in the weeds. And then they're missing out on, I mean, in some situations, talking about PRO, they're missing out on just straight dollars sometimes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like they just don't think about it. And like getting people into that, offloading that from people. Yeah, that's a massive like help to everybody, but also allows you to do something that you really find fulfilling for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I very much love what I do. It's sometimes hard to describe what I do because it is such like a niche thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but there is definitely a demand for it, and I absolutely love doing it.
No, I mean, yeah, that's amazing. So for the newer, because I mean, we speak to kind of a breadth of producers and home studio, songwriters, producers, mix engineers. What do you find talking to like younger, more, new to this, because I mean you were also there at one point, new to this,
Mhm.
producers, engineers, mixers, what do you find are some of the pitfalls that they make earlier in the career that like kind of kneecap them out the gate?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so just kind of a really broad perspective on things, and then we'll kind of niche into
Hmm.
like systems and like the way that you operate your business specifically.
Sure.
Um, in my experience, especially like having been an A&R and like licensing coordinator, like I've worked with a lot of creatives in the musical space,
Hmm.
and one big thing that I run into is like people either don't know what you do or they do know what you do and they don't like it, right? And
Oh,
so a
yeah.
majority of people, it's like you need to tell the world that you make music. You cannot be this mysterious person with an Instagram profile that only has 6 posts and they're all just super vague, because people aren't going to know what you do. I'm sorry, you are not the Rolling Stones. You cannot tease an album or tease a pending project and expect people to be hyped by the mystery you're surrounding yourself with. You need to let people know this is what you do, this is how you can help them.
Hmm.
And on the flip side of it, maybe you are very vocal and people do know what you do, but you're just not good at it. Right. And so like
Oh.
there's very much this like balance of skills development. You need to be good at what you do, and then audience awareness. You need to let people know what you do.
Hmm.
Moving into that, once you kind of get those down, um, you need to make sure that your business can handle the specific like target of how many people or how many projects you want to take on a month, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of looks like how many projects can you fit in your brain specifically, right? Like absolutely, like you don't write anything down, you're just memorizing details on a project. It's probably going to be like
Hmm.
1, 2, maybe 3 max before like
Yeah.
you get to the point where you're starting to mix details across projects. So very simple, like the simplest system you can have: go buy a block of post-it notes, write down project details, pop them onto the wall behind your computer. That way you can track, like, okay, cool, these are the active projects I'm working on. You don't need something fancy like Trello or ClickUp or anything like that,
Yeah.
right? If you're just starting off as a like musical or a creative entrepreneur, find a simple, cost-effective way to just keep track of what you're working on and like represent like where you are working on those specific things, right? So like those sticky notes,
Yeah.
for example, you can have other sticky notes, then, detail like the specific things you need to do on a project. Okay, cool. Tuesday, I'm going to track guitars. Wednesday, I'm going to reach out to the artist, send them the demo track, get a, day for cutting vocals scheduled. And then, once that's done, I'm going to schedule, the day that I'm going to mix and get everything done. Right. And when we talk about systems specific for businesses, it's taking this organizational structure and then moving it into basically a digital format that you can take with you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are going to be like, oh my goodness, what is the best system for me to use? I want your, top 3 systems for my business. And the fact of the matter is they all do the same thing. Find the one that you can consistently stay with. It might not be the prettiest one. The prettiest one is probably going to take the most time to set up. Find something really simple. If aesthetics are really important to you, that is awesome. But if you're spending more time making your project planner pretty and not as much time actually working on your projects and keeping track of them, that's very backwards, right? Instead of being a music 100% producer, you should just be, a planner designer, right? Anyways, that's besides the point. But find what works for you, right? Your biggest pitfalls are going to be growing your business and running your business, right? These are the two things that you need to focus on. You need to actually run your business in order to grow your business. And running your business means that you're going to be, doing the creative thing. You're going to be, fulfilling projects, making tracks, talking with artists, sending out tracks, doing mixes, that is stuff that only you can provide. If you do grow to the point where you do hire a team, that is awesome. You are more than, able to delegate certain things. But in the end, you do have to have a bit of a hand in running your business if you are, a creative entrepreneur. And so where do you free up your time? You free up your time in your project planning, in all of the admin stuff. Some really quick ways, and I'm totally on a soapbox, so feel free to stop me if you have any interjection thoughts. So if we think about the client journey, you have the sales call, you have the initial chat / I'm interested in doing a project. Once you get someone to the sales call, then you have a bunch of steps. You have a bunch of hoops you need to drive through or jump through. Yeah. You have to send the proposal, get signatures if you're someone who does that. You have to collect files. You have to schedule the project, right? A lot of these things can be done, just via a really simple email template or via a website that you send them to. So a lot of times when I first started and I got a new artist that I was working with, I would custom write an email to them. It would basically be the exact same thing, but I would write an email from scratch. And then I would take an hour or two making sure that it was crafted perfectly, that it wasn't too aggressive, but was still, a good email that had all details in. I would send it. And then inevitably 20 minutes later, I would be like, oh my goodness, I forgot to send my invoice link, or I forgot to, do this thing where I was like, I need your, your actual project details or your demo track. And so the mental space that is spent on writing these emails, / doing the onboarding, doing everything from scratch can absolutely be saved by just having a standardized process. If you just send someone to the same website that details everything that you need, and then you spend 5 minutes organizing those files, then you're good. That's 3 hours saved. In starting a project and even in communicating with an artist, find a centralized location to communicate with, right? I can't tell you the amount of producers I've worked with who are like, oh yeah, I got revision notes from this artist via text. I then got a few others, from their guitarist via email, right? That's exhausting to have to, take care of, all of these different communication platforms. And so find one specific, put this in your contract. If you do one thing today, put this in your onboarding template / contract / proposal. Delegate one specific person who needs to be the only person that you talk with. And then make sure that you only talk with them on one specific platform. For me, that is Slack. If someone ghosts me during onboarding because I asked them to use a platform like Slack where I can keep track of files and deliver files, then they're probably not a project for me. Find what works specifically for you and then just make sure you can accommodate if it's a really important project, but for 80% of the projects that you do, throw people through the system, right?
So if you had to say, because I know you talked about like there's a couple different things we could talk about just kind of based on that section of what you just said. So firstly, I want to say maybe for the people that are just getting started that want like they don't want to think about it, that want like easiest like, you know, these are the thing these are like tried and true things to go use. I
Mm-hmm.
would say, some sort of project tracking system. So let's break this down
Mm-hmm.
like easy. We need some sort of project tracking system. So that can be an Asana, that can be a Trello, that can be,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And then from there, we need to get them into where does what other two types of things you think that people should get? So, because I'm
Yeah,
trying to break this down for like the person who knows
absolutely.
absolutely nothing. So,
Yeah.
some sort of project management system, I think, is a must have, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
especially in today's world.
Mm-hmm.
Some sort of, I also use a separate to do list tracker because I have things outside of music production so I kind of
Mm-hmm.
like consolidate all my to dos into one place, but Asana tracks all of my production projects. That's kind of
I
the way
love
that
it.
I do things. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
little wonky, a little clunky, but it works for me. And I know everybody's got the weird things. What are some other things as far as specific uh, ways to make sure that they can keep track of their, things? Do you suggest some sort of contract signing thing, some sort of proposal software or like proposal thing? Um, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Wow. Okay. So project trackers. Let's start there since you started
Yeah,
with that. Um,
sure.
Again, find what works for you. I prefer Trello.
Yes. Okay.
And the way that I set up project trackers is I have a bird's eye view. This is just every project that I'm working on at any given moment. And then from the bird's eye view, I have specific like artist trackers, right? So this is the specific tracker of like, okay, cool. Like this is the project we are working on. This is the song we're working on. What phase are we in with this?
Okay.
That's really all you need. You take your
Yes.
notes on like the like specific, card or like project item that you create.
Yep.
That way everything is centralized.
Hmm.
Other systems that you need, communication, right? We already kind of talked about this. Find a specific
A
place to
little bit. Yeah.
communicate that please isn't your text messages because those will get lost so fast.
So straight
Um,
up, this happened to me literally last week. I forgot to. I it wasn't in my email because I'm still like changing over some stuff of my processes, and it wasn't in my onboarding email of, hey, we need to communicate this way, a
mhm.
specific way, and I got lumped into a group text. That's
Oh
how they decided to
no.
do revisions, and I was like, oh god, guys,
Mm.
this is not it. This is not it.
Oh gosh. Yeah,
So
and
like,
once you get
and
into
that
that
was a
situation,
nightmare.
you can't really leave.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
nightmare.
It's hard to go, hey, we're not doing this. Like, let's do this thing because we're already here. So we might as well just
Yeah,
finish it
yeah,
out. It was only a song. It
yep.
wasn't that big of a deal. I just got through it. But now
Mm.
immediately that, we are emailing, you are finding a designated person to send, or however that's how I do it is email, but it can be, like you said, through something like Slack or
Mhm.
a communication platform.
Yeah, preferably something where you can search for things.
Hmm.
So again, text message, horrendous.
Hmm.
WhatsApp at the very least, because it's kind of like texting, but it's not going to get lost in your text messages like app, right? So if you use
Yeah.
WhatsApp very specifically and only for project communication, that is like at the very least like you can do that. Um,
Hmm.
I definitely prefer something where I can share more files. Like for me, Slack is the ultimate go-to for that. If you do
Yeah.
use something like Basecamp, or I think Asana also has messaging features, you can just
Yeah.
onboard them onto your team there, where you have like a team chat that you're then able to talk to people via and then
Hmm.
share files there.
I believe
But yeah,
ClickUp's
communication
is
is
the
also
same
really
way
important.
as well.
Yeah, ClickUp is expensive. I
Yeah,
think.
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
I think
They have
I've only
a
worked in it
I
a
don't
little bit.
yeah, it was almost too much for me. It made my brain hurt a little bit whenever I got into it and I was trying to mess around with it, just checking it out, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is, I mean, it's cool, but it seems like a lot to set up
Yeah,
a simple thing.
it's a lot to set up. It does everything, which is great.
Yeah, it's
You don't
also a
need
bad thing.
everything. Yeah, yeah, you need something simple, right? Keep it
Yeah,
simple. Yeah.
yep. I generally
So yeah.
suggest Asana or Trello, which is basically what we use.
Mhm. Yeah, Trello doesn't have a chat. As soon as Trello adds a chat, they're going to be unstoppable.
Yeah,
But for now, Trello does not have a chat. But Trello is free,
mhm.
and I think Asana is also
Asana is also
free.
free.
There's a free
Yep,
plan. Yeah,
yep.
yeah. I've used it a few times. It's just Trello is where I set up all of my systems, and that's just kind
Yeah,
of like it works for me.
no,
I don't
it
feel the
makes
need to
sense.
migrate to something else unless I have a client that's like, "Hey, we use this app. Can you please get set up?" And even then, I'm like, "Yeah, if you pay me enough, then yes, I
Yeah,
will,
yeah, yeah.
adopt
For
another app
sure,
for you."
for sure.
Um,
So we have
so
project management, and then we have communication. So Slack
mhm,
being, I would suggest like Slack, email, or even at a basic level, WhatsApp being like your
mhm,
3 overview options there.
yeah.
And then outside of that,
Outside of that, I think the other system, find a naming system for your songs and your projects, right? So every single time you do a new export, save a new project, that's going to save you so much time. And then find a way to ID the projects. So for me, I used oh God, it's been a while. Um, I would classify songs into 3 different categories, like exports that I would send an artist. There would be the
okay.
idea, which is like the general, track, form. There would be and then there'd like be the final mix, right? So I think
Okay.
those are the
Yeah,
only
yeah.
ones. It's like I would say, or there would also be a rough. So just kind of like
Yeah.
because I did a lot of more like sync slash like co-writes collaborations, and so I was sending
Yeah.
roughs back and forth with people. And so I would just name. I would just go up in numbers, right? So I would send idea 1.0. If I made a slight edit to it, idea 1.1, right? Idea 1.2. As soon as you make like a significant change, idea 2, right? Just go up
Mhm.
in your numbers. Never say idea final, because then you're going to end up with idea final final, idea final final. Mix
Yeah.
this one, yes please. Um,
Yeah.
so for me, I classified things into the phase of the production, and then the like number of export, right? And so like we would get
Gotcha.
up to like yeah, final mix version 6, right? And just kind of like keeping track of that, because then like in that case the artist can be like, okay, cool, this version I liked, version 2.4, let's go off of that one, right? Versus saying, hey, I liked this one, they send you the audio file, you have to listen to the audio file, figure out what
Yeah.
version it was, because at that point they kind of all sound the same. um
Yeah.
so like yeah, figure out ways to name things. And honestly, a lot of the work with systems and stuff is going to be done at the front end. You need to set expectations for the artist, and as soon as you
Mhm.
set expectations, they know what to expect. So they're
Yeah.
not going to put you in a group chat with their entire band while they're arguing over
Yeah.
revisions. Yeah, and then
Oh,
there's
yeah,
offboarding.
100%. Yeah.
So
Okay, so
yeah,
yeah, going to offboarding, I would love to go into offboarding a little bit as well, because I feel like that's not something that's talked about enough, in our world, is like once everybody has the final product, you know,
hmm
what do you do?
hmm
Because a lot of things happen where it's, you send it, you've got your payment, and it's like, I guess we're done now. But there's a lot of steps that can be done post project closure that needs to be, wrapped up. Um, and you can go into your general thoughts on that. I would love to hear that from you.
yeah. Offboarding is your chance to nurture a completed project at a point in the project where your client is the happiest with you. So if you just deliver the project and you're like, "Hey, here's the project. It was great working with you." Like, yeah, sure, your artist is probably going to be super happy. um, you're not capitalizing on those happy emotions to secure future projects, right?
Yeah.
So for offboarding, couple things. There's the housekeeping side, and then there's the like continuing customer side, and that kind of gets into like a little bit more marketing strategy and positioning.
Sure.
But on the like housekeeping side of things, make sure that you record, split sheets, PRO registrations.
Hmm.
I eventually got to one point where I would just handle PRO registrations on behalf of the artist, because if the artist did it themselves, they would forget me. Um,
Yeah.
so I just told them, like, as part of your package, I will handle your PRO registration for you. That way you don't even have to worry about it. Um,
Yeah.
get a split sheet signed, if you are someone who works on back end, which, I mean, it's, we are in 2024, you should be getting back end on your tracks, because streaming
100%.
is not going to make you money. Sync is going to make you money.
Yep.
And like royalties are going to make you money. So make sure that you get splits recorded on like master, writers, and publishing. If you are connected with sync libraries, submit the song on the artist's behalf, get a one sheet signed. A one sheet is basically just a document that says, hey, all parties that contributed to the track um, agree that the person listed on here has the ability to pitch and represent this song without having to check in with the other parties that contributed.
Yeah.
That is really important. The world of sync moves really fast. Get a one sheet signed. That way you can land deals quickly. Um, on the
That's
housekeeping side,
beneficial. I was gonna say that's
still,
beneficial
yeah.
to everybody, because then it's just easier for everybody to go. They don't have to, like, if they have an offer come across their table, they don't have to check with everybody else, and everybody's in
Mm-hmm.
agreement that, they can take advantage of an opportunity, because, you know how it is. Everything moves so fast in this industry. It's like, if a lot of times if you get an opportunity and you have to go, well, I have to wait a couple days to make sure everybody's okay with it, that
Mm-hmm.
opportunity is probably going to be gone
Yeah,
by the
you
time
lose it.
everybody actually gets back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're working with creatives, right? I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know how many unread text messages you have on your phone. Um, I also don't know, because I turned off the little like notification badge icon because I was getting anxiety. Um, so you know, like
That's amazing.
people
Just
people don't read their
live in the
texts.
denial. Live in
Yeah,
denial.
yeah. Handle it in your offboarding. I don't know how many unread emails I have. I have like 7 different emails that I check, right?
Yeah.
I see the important ones. Those are flagged as, important. And then everything else just kind of goes and is checked, at 1 a.m. when I can't sleep. Um,
Sure.
so yeah, make sure you get everything done in offboarding, right? Like hound the artist to sign all these documents, and like make sure that, you are
Yeah.
both set up for success in the future. Um, release strategy. Sometimes I offer to release an artist's song on their behalf,
Mhm.
just because I have like a lot of metadata tags and all of that. It really depends on what DistroKid plan you have or what distributor you use. Um, I've even gone to the point where I've like, just sent like, I've created a DistroKid account for an artist and I've uploaded a song for them on their behalf. Just because I'm like,
Yeah.
I want this done well. I do not mind doing this for you. Just give me a release date, etc., and I will send you all the assets and your login and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, housekeeping. Make sure that release is set. Don't let an artist sit on a track for 4 years, because chances are 4 years from now that song is not going to sound modern, right? The song
Yeah.
sounds good now because the song was made for now. Um,
Mhm.
release your music, right? This has
Yeah.
nothing to do
I
with
don't
release. You spent so
yeah.
much time and money on your song. Release your song, even if you only get
Yeah.
50 streams. That is still 50 people who took the time to listen to your song that you created.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Uh I think
yeah.
that's interesting. I think people get lost in the sauce on you know, oh, I gotta have like all of these streams and all that. It's like, man, if you got a room full of 50 people that are stoked about listening to your song, that's
Hmm.
awesome. That's a good that's a
Yeah.
good that's a good show.
Or even one person that's like, yeah, play me your song 50 times back to back,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's
That's
awesome. I love
incredible.
that.
That's incredible.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. On the other side, on the marketing, like business side of things, your client is probably the happiest at this point. They've just received the
Mhm.
finished song. They're stoked about it. They're really excited to, get it to the world and share it. Follow up with them. At the end of it, just say, hey, I really loved working with you. I would love to work on another project with you. Um, here's a discount code for your next project with me. It
Yeah.
expires in 3 months, but I would love to continue the momentum that we've built here. So if you start another project or put a deposit down on a project within the next 3 months, you are going to get 25% off my usual fee because you're a recurring client. Just create a little bit of scarcity. You don't just want to be like, hey, second project is 25% off, because then they're just going to be like, okay, cool, I'll hold on to this forever.
Yeah.
Create a little bit of scarcity, right? With the next few months, if you start something or if you schedule something or put down a deposit, I will honor your project rate.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a loyalty program.
I will
The
say
offboarding
this is something
process.
that I did probably I started doing a couple years ago, and it is the thing that made me able to just like go full time in music. It is I would attribute that aspect, the good follow up and the like it was hey, come back and get a discount on your next song within the next 3 months, or it was even simply just saying, "Hey, who do you know that might need some work?" Like immediately while they're stoked on you, and they'll be
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, I have these handful of people," and then you be like, "Hey, can you connect us?" Like, I would super appreciate that. Like,
Yeah.
have that. They can have a little bit of that conversation on your behalf, and the client or the potential new client is coming in already warm up to you because their friend is stoked on what you've done, and then they're more
Mm-hmm.
likely to say yes, and it's just an easier conversation.
Yeah. Word of mouth is absolutely like the best way to get new projects in. So cold marketing,
It's
no, she's out. She's so
yeah,
2019. Word of
yeah.
mouth, absolutely.
People have blockers for cold emails now, man. No, half of that
Mm-hmm.
stuff isn't getting through, or they can just even DMs, like they can smell it. You know,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
can just smell the weird
Yeah.
conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to show genuine interest in someone before they show genuine interest in you, right?
Hmm.
Like you can't just. I mean, imagine if God, what's a good metaphor? Cold outreach is kind of like dating. Um, you don't both swipe right on each other. Like it's kind of like you just send someone a message of like, hey, work on a song with me, right? Like
Yeah,
it's weird. You know,
yeah,
you should talk a little bit before, get to know the
yeah,
person, right?
yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
it's saying, hey, I don't know you. Bare your soul to me.
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, just
Yeah,
all of the trauma. Just let's talk about it all.
yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Learn to talk with people, make friends, right?
Yeah.
Another system you can set up, and this is like more for like people who are really getting into like keep getting things going. You should have an email
Hmm.
funnel. You should have a website. Um,
Yeah.
so there's a couple different like methodologies for websites, and this is going to get a little heady. So feel free to shut me up if you
I'm
need to.
I'm
There's
I'm in. Let's go.
awesome. There's two copywriting methods. One is called PAIS or PAIS. The other one is called AIDA,
Okay.
AIDA. Right? PAIS stands for problem, agitate, insight, solution. It's very aggressive. People visit your website, you call them out like, hey, like for me, right? Like, are you super tired of staying up until 2 a.m. every night just to make sure your business is running? Right?
Yeah.
Agitate. You like then agitate the issue. You're like, oh yeah, like that absolutely sucks. I bet you're not sleeping at all, right?
Yeah.
How are you even doing this? Insight. I used to be like you. Like I would be up until 2 a.m. I would be on my laptop. I would like sleep 4 hours. I would wake up at 6 a.m. Continue working because I thought that was the only way that I could be profitable when running a business. That's not the way to do it. In fact, you should invest in your systems, blah, blah, blah. Like that is the
Solution.
solution part. Like,
Yep.
so like for music producers, it can be like that as well. Highlight a problem like, hey, um, gosh, I'm slipping right now. Highlight a problem that the artist has, right? Are you not
Yeah.
getting any streams on Spotify, right?
Is
Agitate
your
that.
song
Like
not
that
coming
really
out how you
sucks.
want it to be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even just
Yeah.
that
Provide.
simple aspect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You kind of that one's very like you push people through it, right? You capitalize
Hmm.
on the more emotional side. The other one is, and I have to look this one up. It's called AIDA. The AIDA model is attention, interest, desire, action. So it's really
Mm.
similar, but it's not as aggressive. It is going to be more or less like what you're going to see like with an online retailer, or like more or less like an online service. It's a lot more gentle, more like, hey, this is what I do. If you're interested in it, we should work together. Um,
Yeah.
so there's different ways you can like incorporate these. For example, instead of trying to push people straight into booking a project consultation with you, that is a really high friction like conversion that you're trying to do. Instead, have them give you your email, or have them give you their email, right?
Yeah.
Offer some sort of a like, okay, cool, here is a 5-step songwriting guide that I used when I was like writing a lot of songs. I noticed that there's these like 5 patterns in songwriting that work really well.
Yeah.
um, Let me email it to you, right? Pop in your email here, you'll get an email from me in a few minutes. It's going to have all these songwriting tips. Voila, you have their email. From here, you start nurturing the relationship. Send them more stuff, basically be like, hey, here, how is the 5-step 5-pattern songwriting thing going? um Here's a serum pack that I made, or like here's a few
Yeah.
loops that I made, um of like really simple chord progressions that you can write over, so you don't have to record them yourself. Provide value to them, show like genuine interest, and the people who are interested are going to contact you, or they're going to
Yeah.
continue engaging with the stuff that you're sending them. If you get really granular into this, you can then target their email or you can target their email with like Instagram ads and Facebook ads.
Sure.
We're not going to get into that today because I'm also not a
That's a little
marketing
bit
professional.
about to say
I'm
that's a
not.
little, that's
I'm
also a
not
little bit
qualified to
like
speak on that.
way heady above my pay grade.
Yeah. um, but yeah, you should have an email list. That
Yeah.
email list is going to be how you stay in touch with people and how you stay top of mind. So when they are ready to work on a project, they contact you.
And
Right.
listen
A
to me.
lot of
Listen to me, people. If you are making content at all and you do not have an email list, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're just letting those people just slip right by. See you once,
Yep.
they might like your content, and they're never going to see you again. What are you
Yep.
doing?
Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, email lists. It's the one system that's been around forever, and it still works. I mean, people used to do like physical mail lists. They would mail
Yeah.
things to people's actual, mailboxes. What even is a mailbox these days, right? That's an app on my phone, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, build an
You
email list.
mail. Yeah. The so kind of starting to come to a close here.
Mhm.
Um what is in a broader spectrum for people that are just running their businesses in a broader, what is the number one thing that you find that you're helping people with the most? Like, what is the one
Yeah.
thing that you're like, every single time I've had a client, this one thing is the thing that we have to fix?
Oh gosh. A lot of it actually is copywriting, which we haven't
Really?
talked at all about today. But yeah, like write your emails better, write your website
Oh,
better.
I would love to
Um,
do a quick copywriting conversation because like that's something that I know I can do better, and I feel like every person who is a studio person especially is terrible at it.
mhm. Yeah. Gosh. Biggest thing, it's not about you. It's about the
Mhm.
customer and how you can help the customer. If you hit someone with a, "Hi, my name is, Steve, and, I have 4 Grammy nominations, and, these are the artists that I've worked with. You should work with me." No one's going to want to do that. They're going to be like, "Wow, Steve, that's really cool. Great job."
Mhm.
But
Yep.
if you pinpoint, a specific, pain point that an artist has, um, that's going to help you so much in like how you like
Mhm.
not even just like get the project, but how you communicate with the artist. Like people want to be understood, they want to be seen. They don't want to be like, oh, I'm in this room with this person who's like super amazing, right? Make yourself look
Yeah.
like you know what you do, but do it in a way where you're there to help the person. Same thing
100%.
when you write your emails.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what's up?
Oh, sorry. I'll speak after you continue. When you write your emails?
Oh yeah, when you write your emails, focus on the customer, don't focus on
Mhm.
yourself. That's really the biggest thing. Yeah.
I love the two methods that you brought up as well, because that kind of definitely applies to this. Have you ever read a book called Stories That Stick by Kendra Hall?
Oh, I have not.
I would
I'm
highly
gonna add that to my
recommend it.
list right now.
Highly recommend
Okay.
it.
I'm
So
gonna type this
so
in.
and this is kind of what has brought me to this point now where I'm at. Of I read it last year, and it kind of brought me to this point of like, oh, I can do so much better about doing this copywriting thing in a way that not only puts the other person first, but also while they're reading it, they're being brought down this story of like, oh, I relate to this story. I want, and this person helped this other person solve their problem that I relate to. I feel more invested in having this person help me with my problem, because that means they can help me with my problem. She did a
Hmm.
really great job in that book. Of she does a lot of copywriting, and she does a lot of story. It's basically building a story brand times 10, in my opinion. Um,
Yeah.
she does a much better job of explaining the story actual aspect of
Hmm.
the whole like copywriting thing. Um,
Yeah.
so and also this is the other thing, and I love Donald, love him, but that book's a little dry in some places. Uh, and by a little, I mean it's just a little rough in some places. And she does a great job of not only explaining the information, but
Hmm.
also telling great stories while she's explaining the information. So it made it such a much easier read, and much easier for me to take in the information and then therefore also apply the information. um
Yeah.
yeah, would highly suggest that one to everybody that's listening, and also to you if you haven't read it.
Yeah. I'm gonna order that like right after this. I would also say that copywriting is it's basically storytelling, but with your customer, at the center of the story. Um, which
Hmm.
yeah, you write songs, right? It's basically the same thing. You're telling a
Yeah.
story. Copywriting is very similar. It's just instead, of
Yeah.
telling someone about this person in your song, you were telling someone about themselves. Um, yeah.
Yeah, or a mirror of themselves. Yeah, and I think that's a really
Hmm.
great way to view it. Actually, is it's as simple as just, hey, let's lead the customer, your potential customer, down a story of that they might relate to. And if they can get to the end of that story and they still relate to that person,
Hmm.
they're gonna say yes to whatever you have at
Yeah.
the end of that. Like, almost,
Absolutely.
I would argue 10 out of 10 times, if they're making it to the end of that well-structured story, you know, funnel,
Hmm.
they're gonna say yes to most things that you ask.
Yeah. Exactly.
Within reason.
Yeah. Obviously.
Within a reason.
Yeah.
Uh, Enoch, thanks so much for coming on. If people want to find you, check you out, I know you're doing some content. Where can they find you if they want to either talk with you about, that management stuff, or even just kind of, watch you do what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Instagram is probably the best way. It's just at underscore Enoch Yang. That's my first name and my last name. You are welcome to DM me at that management as well. That inbox is not checked as often. But yeah, DMs there are great. I have a weekly newsletter that I send out called System Saturday. You can head to thatmanagement.co/System Saturday. And that will basically just be there. It's just a free systems tip. We're going to go over, like how do you build, an email campaign? What software or what app, is best for building an email campaign for a solopreneur?
Hmm.
How do you structure your Trello card? How do you build a project planner? Even down to like how do you build, like uh, keyboard macros for like things that you do
Yeah.
that like require a lot of key commands. So yeah, that is an option if you are interested in building more systems. If you're interested in having them built for you, send me a DM. Happy to do that as well. Just Instagram is the best way to contact me. So pretty much it.
100%. Well, yeah, especially those people that are trying to take your step. If you're making the decision of like, I want to do this thing for real, full time, and I want to make it like my living, this is a part of it that you will have to deal with. And it is a lot better to learn from somebody like Enoch, in my opinion, who knows what they're doing, has been doing this for a while, and is very, very, very good at explaining it. And also, like you said, if you don't want to have to learn how to do it yourself and you just want to have somebody else do it, have a conversation with Enoch. Thank you so much for coming on this episode. It was so great to have you again. So great to chat and nerd out on systems and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. So good seeing y'all.
Yep. Listener, thank you so much for listening. Go follow Enoch. All the links will be in the description, and give it a like and subscribe. We will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Home Studio Hangout podcast. If you could take the time to like, subscribe. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other audio platform, go ahead and make sure you're subscribed, and also leave a rating and a review. It helps the show get out to new people, and we're trying to grow every single week. Once again, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Home Studio Hangout podcast, and we'll see you next week.